Hello everybody, I'm Rob. There is no Mary. We are using technology to overcome the physical boundaries of the university, which is something I'm going to talk about later. But this is week 4 of English as a Medium of Instruction for Academics, and I'm talking quietly because, unlike most weeks, this week I have a 15-month-old daughter sleeping in the room above, so I'm talking very softly. We are self-isolating to keep our colleagues, our families, and our wider society safe. And I hope you're staying safe where you are and are adapting to the current situation with COVID-19. Yes, so I'm going to talk more about an important thing for many of us, which is using technology in higher education and specifically EMI contexts. But before I do that, I'm going to go over to Mary.
Hello everybody, this is Mary. It's week 4 of English as a Medium of Instruction for Academics, and this is our weekly video update. The last one for this particular run, although in fact the course will be open for a further 2 weeks if you wish to read, interact, post comments, etc. I want to make an apology that I haven't actually interacted with the comments that you've posted very much over the past few days, and it's probably been the same for you. I haven't had EMI, the MOOC, at the top of my list of priorities. However, things will change. We are planning to run the MOOC again beginning on May the 18th, and then of course it will run again probably in the autumn, but you will be able to find the dates on FutureLearn. So you may be distracted with other concerns at the moment, and so EMI has moved down your list of priorities as it has with me, and we may wish to reassemble with our thoughts, and I hope we will at a later date. One thing I've noticed is that although there have been fewer comments posted on the different steps in the course, we have had a lot of people joining the Facebook group, which to me indicates that you really want to be part of this community, and this is very heartening for us. So when normal life resumes, perhaps we can take up the threads of our discussions in a different way. Perhaps our connectivity will be different and will be strengthened by our excuse me, I'm not ill. This is just normal first thing in the morning, getting up, coughing. We'll perhaps have had the opportunity to think about EMI, our context, our willingness to share, and our connectivity, and so we will be in a position to give more to one another and exchange more meaningfully about an issue that is of importance to us, but possibly not the number one issue at the moment. I want to thank lots of people. First one is Mimi, who's going to be splicing together today's recordings and posting them on the step. Mimi is our camera person, and thank you enormously, Mimi. See you again soon. And of course my colleague Rob, who I miss. I'm at the moment self-isolating with my cats, and this is why you may see action from this arm. I'm trying to keep them occupied and not jump up on the desk at the moment, and I'm being successful, but this is why my arm is waving around in a rather peculiar fashion. It doesn't look very professional, but I'm sure you'll understand. Coming back to the posts, you don't have to post anything deep and meaningful. Just saying hello, hi, and thank you, or something like that to somebody who's made the effort to put a few words is great, because as we are perhaps not meeting up with people in normal circumstances at the moment, our online presence and our connectivity is more important than ever. And this will link into the comment that we do have from Luana on this step, which is about using apps and moving to online learning and thinking about EMI in the context of online learning. And maybe when we come back together again in the future, we will have more to share, our experiences of operating online in the EMI context. So although everything's pretty grim at the moment, some good things always come out of the bad things, don't they? And if we just focus on our EMI context, then we're going to have lots of experiences to share with one another. If we haven't already, and this is why I'm really pleased that the MOOC, the course, is open for another 2 weeks, so that we might already be able to share a few things. But anyway, in the future, at a later date, we're going to have so much to tell one another about our EMI online experiences, which is absolutely wonderful. Another person I want to thank, the people I want to thank are the people in Brazil who've been mentoring. And once again, we haven't had the best of circumstances for this to happen. So let's just hope that we'll be able to repeat the experience at a future date. I'll leave it to Rob to perhaps pick out one or two things specifically that we could comment on at the moment. I think all I really want to say at the moment is look after yourselves, take care. Honestly, if I don't stop soon, I'm going to get weepy because I get really emotional about these things. I don't like saying goodbye to people, that's the thing. So do keep in touch. We've got a Facebook group. You can easily find Rob and me. If you wanted to email us, easily find us on the Southampton website. So, as I said, it doesn't have to be deep and meaningful at the moment. Just knowing we're all there, that we have concern, an interest, which is EMI, which is going to enable us to move forward in the future as a group. We've got lots of experiences to share. So once we get over the next few weeks, months, we're going to have a brilliant EMI future. Thank you ever so much for being with us. Thank you to my cats for not jumping up onto the table. I've managed to keep them off the table by waving this fishing rod from time to time, so they're happily playing down at my feet. That might explain any funny noises you heard. So it's not goodbye, but see you soon. Bye-bye.
Hello everybody, I'd like to say thank you to Mary as well for always putting her heart and soul into this EMI MOOC. And it's a very sad day when we can't be together presenting, but like I said, we're using technology to collaborate, which is going to link to my next point. Before I make that point, I'd just like to say that I share in Mary's gratitude to everybody who's been taking part and given some really insightful ideas. And again, the most interesting areas for me are the practical advice, and also just the people who say, yeah, this works really well for me and this doesn't, which, because of contextual factors. And that links to the point I'd like to make, which is in relation to the question about smartphones and how to use smartphones in EMI settings. And I'd like to share with you just the first things I was told when technology first started to become very fashionable in mainstream higher education. And what I was always told was, number one, think about function. Think about why you're using it, just like you would with a textbook. You don't get a shiny new textbook and then throw away all your ability as an educator and get the students to focus on a piece of paper. You think about how you can get the most engagement possible from that. Also, there are matters like so number one is function. Number two is thinking about what you use technology for, and particularly in my experience, technology is to a large part to communicate with students and really to keep students on task. So it, like a virtual learning environment, is an area where there are lots of things you can do and ways that you can present information, but a key feature is really to remind students that they should be consolidating their knowledge. They should be thinking about what they have learnt so far and how they can apply that to something. And likewise, they should be thinking about preparing for both the next lecture, the next topic, the next level that they're going to have to operate at, and also maybe preparing for future assignments or whatever the assessment is. So transforming their different types of learning into something that they can see as tangible. So often we have lots of information in handbooks, lots of information in documents online, and the main use of technology is to remind students that it's there, to signpost students to what they're doing, why they should be doing it. And the real activities that students do don't change that much generally. So you're using, say, a virtual learning environment to get students to discuss, and perhaps you can do that in an atemporal way, so they're not communicating at the same time. Much like this MOOC, we don't say, okay, comment on step 4.2 at 4 o'clock. This is a time when you have time, when you have insight, you can join the conversation. And that's, to a large part, is for me what online learning is, and how smartphones or anything else can be used. So the 2 points really, focusing on function and focusing on not delivering information to students only. This is a very limited use of technology, but to remind students and find different ways of signposting to students what they should be learning, what they should be doing, and how they should be doing it. Now, a large part of higher education involves collaboration. So the first use of smartphones I would talk about is getting students to collaborate and observing that collaboration. A couple of examples, we could have Microsoft Teams or the Microsoft 365 package in general, which has functions which are essentially like a chat room. So you could have groups, like subgroups within your lecture, being given a task to maybe present online or within the lecture or seminar, whatever it may be, but they could open a collaborative space. Within that space, they can show their reading. So they could upload an article, they could highlight the article, summarize the article. You could check, have they understood their reading? Have they done their reading? Have they interpreted the reading in the right way? So you can see the work that they've put in to group projects, or simply to the preparation for your classes. So that's an interesting area. Also, referencing software like Mendeley or EndNote has similar areas where a group can be set up and collaborate and share documents that they found. So there's another focus on things like academic integrity can come in there, where you can see the reading they've done, you can see the work that they've put into it, and you can oversee some of the challenges they might have to going from reading to writing, which is often a challenge when we're talking about using an additional language. Now, related to function, so that's the collaborative function, and there are lots of apps available for collaboration. Another function is actual engagement within the classroom. Now, there are lots of apps and software available to facilitate that. I would add a warning here related to the first point, think about function. Now, for my discipline, I find that using a quiz or like A, B, C, D, which do you think is true? And then we have a quantified answer for the class. I don't find that very helpful. And when I've observed teaching, I think if that's used too much, maybe it's the lecturer's idea of I am engaging with my audience using technology. But for young people, pressing A, B, C, or D is not that interactive and engaging. It's not really high level technology. And often you're reducing a very complex question to a set of 4 possibilities. And sometimes people forget to unpack that, to deconstruct it, to say why this question was important. How do you formulate the right answer? How do you put in the kind of thinking involved in answering the question correctly next time? Or maybe it's not correct, incorrect, but whatever it may be, I find people seem to move away from thinking process and move towards almost like a fun game atmosphere where I don't think it really fits a lot of the time. So it can be useful, or particularly key words can be useful. So what do you think of when you see this word? And students can post that. It can be useful, but I'd be careful. We use something called VVox at the University of Southampton, and Socrative and other things are available. So there are a lot of different apps available now. But the like VVox, for example, you can be giving a PowerPoint, and on that PowerPoint you can reach a slide, and then there's an option for students to engage. So that's more interactive. You don't leave the PowerPoint space. So you can say, okay, which of these do you think is the better response? Which is the better solution? And then they can vote or they can contribute on the PowerPoint slide. And so that's important for not leaving that space. But again, that's another example of using smartphones. And again, I've seen it used effectively, even in small groups. But the key thing is not to overuse it. Another thing I'd say that's problematic for me is something that was very fashionable and is still fashionable in America, which is in large lectures using a Twitter feed or some other form of social media where students are posting comments and questions during the lecture. For me, I find that quite distracting personally. I find it's also slightly disorganized and confused. Like in any conversation, you need to know when to ask your question, when to make your comment, when is the right time. And in an intercultural setting, you tend to find that some people just don't comment because they don't know how. Other people feel pressure to comment, so they just say things that's on their mind and isn't particularly useful to other people. So I would say, use things like that with caution. And it hasn't really been useful for me. I think I go with the advice that I was always told that students' attention in a lecture starts to drop at about 8 minutes. So if I'm giving 8 minutes of a lecture, maybe after 10 or a little bit longer, 10, 15 minutes, I should be thinking about creating a space for students to comment and ask questions, just so they can have a break from my voice, which you might want now. But, it's a space where people can respond. And that can be a good use of technology. But I'd say it's better to organize what you're trying to elicit. And again, you could use any interface there. You could use, Zoom is good for face-to-face. Microsoft Teams is good for chat room environment. There are lots of virtual learning environment add-ins that create similar things. Whatever you're using, again, Socrative or VVox, whatever it may be, whatever you're using, that's fine. if you know how to use it, that's the most important thing. And if students are comfortable and can use it, that's the other important thing. So whatever it is, you're seeking their input, but I'd also say try to seek it systematically and not just think, number one, it's going to be popular because it's using a smartphone and students like smartphones, because they like things that are much more advanced than that. And also, I wouldn't think that any input at any time is good, because you need some kind of control and you need to deliver what you want to deliver. But what I'd like to do is, in the spirit of this MOOC, I hope you're feeling that, that what we like to do is get you to comment and give your perspective. So if you've found anything useful, particularly around smartphones, but it could be any kind of technology, if you could post on this step, what you use, when you use it, and how it's useful, and also why you think it's useful for your specific context and goals, then I think we could open up a very interesting conversation. As Mary said, I know that people don't have much time at the moment, either for personal reasons, because we're having to isolate, we're worried about friends, family, students and colleagues, or because you've got lots of work to do. I understand that you're all very busy, but if you do have time to just lend advice to other people, I think that globally now there are a lot of people under pressure to deliver higher education online, as we are. So any advice, I'm sure, would be very welcome. So thank you very much. Thank you again to our Brazilian moderators who've been fantastic, opened up lots of intelligent conversations and input. Thank you to Mary and to Mimi, who's been technologically brilliant and is going to do great things with this video, I hope. And yes, I will see you on the Facebook group on a future run, or in the next 2 weeks while this MOOC remains open. So thank you very much, and stay safe and healthy. Thank you.